Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. Hope you had an amazing Memorial Day weekend, extra long weekend. Hope you did something fun to fill your cup back up, even though we're still in quarantine, day 9,000. But in the meantime, I get to spend some time with you and my buddy Ammon. How you doing?
I'm good, Nick. I know all of you out there may think this is one of those like virtual backgrounds, but this is indeed a real background. I'm in my parents' home in Utah, so I get to enjoy this beautiful foliage and get some nice weather instead of being cooped up in my Chicago home. So I'm all smiles. Memorial Day has done me well.
That's awesome. Yes,
Yeah.
we've role reversed now. I don't have the trees behind me this time. You do.
You may hear an occasional wind chime or anything, but we'll try to roll through it.
Awesome.
It's good to see you, my buddy.
Good to see you too. I'm excited about today's show. We have an action-packed show for us.
Yeah, I know. I'm really excited, but I know you're particularly excited about this show because this one is like a personal passion kind of project of yours that we're bringing back to life. So I'm really excited to just kind of get right into it and talk about what it is that we're going to do today. So I know that
Yeah.
the title is called Capture Phone to Photoshoot, but why don't, since it was your vision, your class, and your execution, describe to us what we're about to go through today?
Yeah, so for those of you who were fortunate enough to come to Matrix Destination, which actually feels like it was years ago, but it was only a few months ago, I had the pleasure and honor to stand on stage with Constance Robbins and Csicsai, two of my favorite people. And we did this really amazing class all around capturing an image, whether it was your phone or a professional camera, or if you were bringing a photo shoot to life. We each kind of took a stab at our tips and tricks to bring it to life. So when we were talking, Ammon and I, about, different show concepts, I said, you know what? I honestly think that was one of the most fun I've ever had on stage with two of my favorite people. So I want to bring it back, bring it live, and share with everyone else.
And I was lucky enough to be there, and I am so excited that you decided to put that on Unveiling Beauty because I think that if you weren't there, you missed it. And so we're going to do our best to bring it to you here on Unveiling Beauty. Our first guest today is none other than Miss Constance Robbins. So, Constance, are you there?
Hi, guys.
Hi, my favorite redhead. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm keeping it together. I've got some press-on nails on. I've got some fake lashes on, and I feel human. It's great.
All right. Look at you, all done up. But I have to say, those are the shortest nails I think I've ever seen on you.
I know, but they're much better than my natural nails. So, you gotta get what you can get, right?
They still look good. They still look good. So good to see you. And thanks for jumping on here with us to talk about this because I thought it was so much fun. And, we spent a year between the three of us really planning to deliver what I thought was a really fun experience. I don't know about what you thought about the experience, but I thought it would be fun to bring it back to life here.
Yeah, it was so cool. I think that we're so used to seeing like hair color classes and cutting classes. So to flip the script and do something that was a little bit different for people, we weren't sure how people were going to take it. And we were very pleasantly surprised that people were so excited about it. And it's one of my favorite topics. And so I mean, anything that has to do with photography or social media just gets me really, really excited.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So one thing that I know you've mastered is the art of capturing a beautiful image for social media, especially with your phone. So why don't you share what is important about, the different lens capabilities? So like standard versus portrait on your phone, and why is it important to choose one versus the other?
Well, I think, a lot of stylists think that they have to have all this like really expensive equipment or anything like that's super technical to take a good photo in the salon. And that's absolutely not the case. Phones have come a long way. And one of my favorite things to do with taking photos in the salon is just switching over to portrait mode. And most phones have this now, most newer phones. And what it does is it just blurs out the background. And why I love this so much is it removes the distractions of the background. So even if you're using something like your salon or a product shelf to take photos in front of, it looks really clean, it looks really beautiful, and it doesn't take away from the hair. I also love the fact that it just really kind of like highlights and makes the hair just kind of pop and come forward, just with like the total star of the photo.
That's awesome.
You know what, Constance, I love the fact that you just said that because it's almost like sometimes I feel like people, they think I don't have all the equipment and so I can't take pictures like that. They see other people's like Instagram, they probably see your Instagram and they're like, I don't have the ability or the equipment or the tools to make my photos look as great as hers. And one of the things that I know that people often try to do, especially behind the chair, is they want to really capture that moment where they've transitioned their client from here to here, that before and after like impactful moment that shows how the strength of you as a stylist. So give them some tips at how capturing the before and after can really change with photography.
Absolutely. So befores and afters are such a hit on Instagram. People love seeing the transformation. Yeah. Sometimes you don't know how good the after is unless you see where they came from. But I think some of the mistakes that a lot of people make is not utilizing that really impactful side by side. And what they do is they will take their before photo with the client like in the chair or maybe with a cape on already, sometimes even with like foils in their hair. And then the after doesn't look as impactful because you don't have that really nice comparison between the two. So something that I love to do is just take my client over to where I'm going to take their after, and I take a bunch of different angles. So I do a side profile, I do a front, I do a back, and I basically take some photos like I was taking her after, but I will do it for the before shot so I can match up shot for shot for the after photo. And it just creates this really like visual impact that for me on my social media, whenever I post images like this, it is literally like it blows up. It does so well. My goal is for the only thing in the photo to change is the hair and maybe the makeup too. Maybe if they're not wearing makeup before and wearing makeup after, but I want their outfit and the background and the pose to be exactly the same.
You know, Constance, one thing you said on stage, and it actually resonated with me ever since you said it that day at Destination, was not every picture you take on your phone should be a picture you post. So talk about that a little bit.
If I posted every photo that was on my phone, I would be just posting images all day long, every day, because I take so many. I think the average amount of photos I take per client is probably like, I would say at least 40, which sounds excessive, but when you're, changing up the poses and you kind of know what you're looking for, you can do that in like 5 minutes. And what I like to do is I'll take a look at my camera roll. I'll even just zoom out. So if you're looking at your camera roll as a whole, I'll look at all of them together, and the ones that pop out to me that really like capture my eye, I'll go in and I'll favorite those photos. And that to me shows like those are like the really like special photos that are going to catch people's attention. Just keep in mind, if at a zoomed out angle, the image catches your eye, then it's probably going to capture other people's eye when they're on the Explore page or when they're looking at hashtags. So it's kind of like a nice little hack to see like what people are going to gravitate towards. So absolutely. I probably only post like one, I don't know, like probably 2% of the photos I take because I just absolutely only post. It's quality over quantity for me.
Yeah,
I agree. Talk to me about lighting. How important is lighting?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I think every stylist has had the frustration of spending 3 hours on their client and they go to take a photo and it doesn't look like what it does in person in the photo. It's so frustrating. And most of the time that has to do with lighting. Salon lighting is generally fluorescent and it tends to make colors look more yellow than what they look like in real life. So this translates to your blondes looking very brassy. And then with ring lights, they became, everybody's solution for taking photos. But for me as a redhead specialist, I don't like using ring lights because ring lights look kind of blue. So they will end up making my redhead look more brown, which is never the goal I'm going for. So I've just found that natural lighting for me works the best. And the reason why I love natural light is it just shows off that hair. It just makes it sparkle and it's free. So you don't have to buy anything. I used to be in a studio. Now I own a salon, but in my studio, I had very little space. I couldn't have all this lighting equipment. So it's easy to do. But the trick is that if you're using natural light, you want to use indirect light. So you want to make sure that the sun isn't hitting on the hair because it just blows out the detail of the hair too much and you can't see the beauty of it. You want to be in maybe some shade, or what I do now is I'll open the front door to my salon and I'll have my clients face the window and I'll basically stand in the door of my salon and I'll photograph them there. And then I just get this really beautiful natural light that's super flattering and just shows it off. And I don't even have to edit it. The lighting just does everything for me.
I love that. And Constance, what you said is like, I want to go back to what you said because lighting is so important, but you said right before that you've spent all this time, right? You're with your client, they've had hours in your chair, and then you're asking them to get up and then take pictures of them. But I know, like lots of my clients, the last thing they want to do, like, no, I want to get my hair done. Like, I'm not a model. And so how do you get that barrier where you actually get your clients to play along with you and actually be your muse long enough so that you can capture your work?
Yeah. Sometimes it's a struggle, especially if you're not already establishing that culture in your salon. My clients are used to it now. They just kind of know that's the drill of when they come in. But yeah, I did train them. But what you can do if you've never done it before is, first of all, everybody loves to be complimented. So what I would say to my client is, let's say her name is Sarah. Okay, Sarah, oh my gosh, I'm just so in love with what I did on your hair today. And I just would really love to capture it because I just want to show off how amazing you look. Would you be okay with that? And if they're kind of like, I don't know. And what I do is I'll say, hey, listen, I'm going to take some photos. And if you want to not show your face because you're feeling a little bit shy or you don't feel like as dolled up as you want to be, I'm going to just photograph your hair only. And I'm going to show the photos to you and you have final approval. So if you don't want to post them, that's okay. I'll just hold on to them for me to admire. And usually after they see the photos, they're like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like I like that. That's my hair. Like that's me, and they're usually kind of pleasantly surprised. I kind of ease them into it. Another thing that I like to do is I just hype them up. So when I'm taking photos of them, there's nothing more awkward than getting your photo taken and nobody saying anything. So if I'm getting a photo taken and I don't know if I look cute or not, I don't know if I'm giving the person who's taking the photos what they want. And so I feel weirder and more awkward. What you can do instead of being silent while you're photographing them, is literally just encourage them. Be like, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Yes, queen, like you look amazing. Like, okay, girl, like serving it. And you literally just like hype them up. And I'll even try to make them laugh. So I'll say something funny about maybe a conversation that we were having while we're in the chair. Sometimes I'll just laugh out loud with them, which I know sounds kind of crazy, but it gets them to laugh and you get like a really genuine smile and it helps them loosen up. So it's like one of my little tricks that I do in the salon to kind of get people a little bit loose. Also, alcohol works too. So if your salon's
that works for everyone.
Also,
as a last resort, right? I'm drunk.
Yeah. You're like, would you like a shot? No, just kidding. Also, people generally don't really know like what is their best angle, and I will just physically pose them. Now, right now with social distancing, like that is a little bit more difficult. So what I would do is just show them on my body what I would do. I would like angle my shoulder down and maybe turn my head to the side and show them what I want. But normally I would actually just position like their shoulders and say, turn your head this way. And that way they kind of have a little bit more, they feel a little bit more relaxed because you're in control and they don't feel like, where do I put my hands or where do I look? It just makes it a lot more, you get a lot more confident when you're actually posing them. So
that makes sense. Talk to me about talk to me about the finish of the hair. How important is the finish of the hair?
Okay, so the finish, it really is like the little like the icing on the cake. And I see so much work on Instagram, and myself included, when I first started taking photos of my hair, of my clients' hair, is that the color would look really good, but I didn't take the time to really smooth it out, really style it really nicely. And so I wasn't getting the reflect on the hair, or maybe I was just getting too many flyaways. And so spending the time really polishing the hair to make it look finished is going to do so much more work for you in the end, as far as like how good your photo is going to look. So let's face it, when I first started using Instagram for hair back in 2014, the bar was a lot lower, but people have gotten better and better and better, and people are just producing amazing work behind the chair that they're photographing with their phone. So you kind of have to up your game a little bit. And for me, that's just been really spending the time to make the hair look beautiful, because I don't have to go in and try to Photoshop out some like stray hairs, or, I don't have a photo that's ruined because there's like a weird curl sitting, in a different way. And a trick that I use is I'll just open up my phone, my camera, and I'll take a look at the hair through the camera. Because for whatever reason, sometimes you see these things that you wouldn't catch in person through the camera, and you're like, oh, I didn't even see that flyaway, or that hair is sitting a little bit weird, and you can go and kind of polish it from there.
No, I think that's a really good point. The one thing you said is you got to up your game. And the funny part about that is I think the guest is actually getting a better experience now and a more beautiful end result because the stylist is wanting these pictures that will last a lifetime on social media. So you're spending more time polishing and finishing and make sure that that guest leaves with that ultimate experience of really gorgeous, luxurious hair. And the image will just prove that. So I think that's a really good point.
It's
I like what you said too.
Made me a much.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Ammon. I was just saying it made me a much stronger stylist because I would go back, we're our own worst critics. So we go back and look at our work and we're like, oh man, like I thought her curls looked really good, but they actually look a little bit flat or they look a little bit frizzy. And so you can go back and kind of try to compete against yourself to be better each time you do that person's hair.
Yeah, I was just going to say what that tip transcends any type of photography, whether it's your phone or on a professional photo shoot, like being able to see that and then up your game. And I know a lot of these tips that you've been able to throw down today and that you're sharing with people are going to definitely help a lot of people who maybe been using their phone as an excuse to maybe say their work isn't as good as the people who are doing the professional photo shoots. Like, no excuses. Use some of these tips so that they too can benchmark and up their game.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, Miss Constance, we could talk about this for days. It's so good to see you. I really appreciate you being on the show today. Hopefully very soon we could plan another project together that we can actually meet in person and create something, again, amazing like we did at Destination.
That would be awesome.
That would be. All right. Stay well, my friend. I look forward to seeing you soon.
All right.
Good to see you, Constance.
Always.
All right.
Such a good segment. As you can see, she's just a wealth of knowledge, right, Ammon? I mean, just so good, so good.
Great tips. I like it because it's almost like no excuses, right? You can use your phone and capture that beautiful image. Just kind of think about those things. And she kind of held everybody accountable to up their game. As Instagram and social media ups their game, we got to also. So.
I agree. And this next guy is going to take us to the next level.
Yeah.
So without further ado, Mr. Dan Csicsai, how are you?
Hey.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good. Good to see you. How are you?
Good. Just taking it easy.
Taking it easy. That's awesome. Dan, I was thinking earlier, how long have we been working together?
Oh, my Lord. Well, I've been there for 25 plus years, so
Okay, so then 20 years.
Yeah.
20 years. Where did the last 20 years of our life go? Could you tell me?
I think my first hair show was helping Dan Csicsai actually backstage in California.
With all that curling iron.
And he had me like curling at like 5 a.m, and I was like, why did I pick this job?
Oh my God.
He's like, you're really good at that. You're going to do that every morning this week. I'm like, oh, fantastic.
Oh, well, we have had all of us, lots of great stories, lots of great times together. And, like I was saying in the previous segment with Constance, I really feel like the program we did at Destination was just one of my favorites. I don't know why. It just was really fun. I feel like we just really clicked and there were really valuable points. And you could tell when the audience really felt like engaged and that they were also like really hanging on everybody's words because they were really wanting to make sure they walked away full of knowledge. And which leads me into your segment was really focusing more on the camera. So let's talk about that. Like, Constance talked about the phone and how important that was and how to perfect that. But now let's go into the camera and, that's something that you've mastered the last few years, I would say, wouldn't it?
Well, actually, before I even started doing hair, my goal was to be a photojournalist. So I did camera way back in the day when it was filmed. So
I didn't even know
still
that.
have some of that film?
I actually do.
That'd be fun to pull out.
No, it has been really interesting, Dan, knowing you as long as we have and stuff, watching your passion. And I didn't know that before, but I guess returning back to your passion and watching you hone it into not only just photographing your own work that I've seen you enter and do so well with it in competitions, but transition that into like understanding photography. So you do, such beautiful like landscape photos, like photos of wildlife, but like a true understanding of like actual like professional photography. And I think one of the key things about that I want to ask about is really the lighting source and talk to us about how important lighting is when we're talking about like professional photography like you're doing.
Right. So, first of all, before I get into lighting, I just want to say something really quick. It's not about the camera. You don't have to buy the most expensive camera. You can buy a base a Rebel, Canon Rebel, and as long as you get a good lens, that's all you need. And as far as lighting goes, this follows along with it. You don't need this whole big studio with all these strobe lights. Most salons have windows, and window lighting is amazing. It's soft, as long as it's not direct light coming through the window, but it's just bouncing off of a light source, or the pavement or concrete, whatever. And you can also balance that light. So let's say I'm the client and this is the window right here. So obviously the light's coming in, it's going to be lighting this side of my face. And if I had just a white board, like poster board or foam board, and I had that on the opposite side of where the light's coming in, that would just bounce back and fill in the shadow area. So you'd still have a contrast of light and dark, but it would just balance it out. So most salons have windows, like utilize that. And windows are really cool too, because not only is it a light source, but if you lined yourself up perpendicular or parallel to your model, here's the window, the model, I'll be the model, and then the photographer is on the other side, you can actually get the reflection of the model in the window with you can have a lot of fun with it. It's not, don't think you have to have this expensive setup to use a camera and the lighting.
I agree. In photography, one of the words you hear a lot of is aperture. So I think it's a foreign word to a lot of people. What is aperture, and how important is it in the composition of the image?
You're not right, Nick. I mean, aperture, what a crazy word. It kind of scares people off. People say aperture or f-stop, and then there's these numbers that tag along with it. And that kind of intimidates and scares people off. And all aperture is, the camera is basically like your eye. So we have pupils in the center of our eye, and it's sensitive to light. So if we're out in bright light, that pupil shuts down. If we need to see in a dark room, that pupil opens up. And that's what aperture is. It's the pupil of the camera and how it's sensitive to light. So the other thing that the aperture does is when you use a wide aperture where it's opened up wide, your depth of field is going to be changed. So for example, I'm sitting here, you guys can see the stairwell behind me, pretty much everything's in focus. If I had a wide aperture opened up, I would be in focus, but that stairwell would be blurred out. So this is help if you have a busy background and you want to blur that out. So that comes into importance.
That's another word that Nick said aperture. Another one that I think that people hear a lot that don't quite understand exactly is shutter speed, right? So help us understand what is shutter speed, and what does that mean for somebody who's taking pictures?
Okay, so shutter speed, again, I'm going to reference our eye. Shutter speed is like your eyelid, or you're blinking. So if I blink slowly, I'm going to, it doesn't stop the action. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And if I blink fast, that's a fast shutter speed. So the faster the shutter speed, the more motion you're going to freeze. So if you're doing a hair shot and there's wind blowing and you want to freeze that hair into air, freeze it in place, use a faster shutter speed. If you want to create a soft, if the wind's blowing and you want some softness in it, then you'd use a slower shutter speed and you'd create some more blur. And that's all it is. It's just scary because everything is, again, there's factors and numbers that represent each shutter speed. You just have to know which one's a slow one, which one's fast, and then work from that point.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you're someone who is new to photography and trying to capture the right image, and they're thinking of all the different variables, right? From the model to the room to the lighting to the camera, what's the advice you would give them? Like, what are the 3 things that you're like, if you do these 3 things, chances are you're going to be able to capture that image?
Well, anybody who really wants to get into photography, I would suggest them to study elements of design. And some people say there's 7, some people say there's 11. And when they first read, the elements aren't going to make any sense. And elements of design, for example, on the photo you guys are going to bring up next, contrast is an element of design. Lines, shape, patterns. And that doesn't really make sense to relate to hair, taking pictures of hair. But when you use, for example, like leading lines could be in that photo, You see her arm, your eye is actually going to follow that leading line up to her head. And that's how our brain works. Our brain is wired to focus on those elements of design, and that's going to create more attention being taken into your photo. Because you can take a photo of a horse, we'll do two examples, and one has a busy background and it's too much for our brain to take in, where another one could be focused on, okay, there's a horse, there's a little bit of something in the background, and our eyes, even though they're both the same subject, our brain is going to be attracted to one more than the other. And understanding any artist, whether it's painting or sculpting, understands those elements of design and uses that in their work.
That's so cool, Nick, or Dan. That reminds me of taking art class in school, because I remember my teacher would always talk to me about like visual pathways, or creating a directional flow for your eye to go along, and that tends to be the most pleasing for your eye, because you're almost guiding your eye a place to go, instead of it being confused and not sure where it needs to focus on. And so I feel like between aperture, shutter speed, and what you just described about that, it was literally the most simple I've ever heard anybody break it down. Like, I wish I didn't do all those art classes. I just got it right now from you just now. So clearly put. Obviously, you know exactly what you're doing. It's so good to see you again, and to hear that level of expertise. I know that everybody that's watching is going to be like, wow, that made it so much more simple, and hopefully takes away a lot of the fear. And because I think a lot of people get scared when it comes to like professional photography, and I can't have a camera because I don't know all the buttons and what all they do. And so the way you just broke it down, at least for me, I'm gonna go buy my own camera tomorrow.
Well, buy a camera, just buy the camera body, don't get a kit, and buy the lens separate.
Good. Yes, that's good advice. So one of the things I know you've been working on as like a passion project on the side of hair is this new let me get it right. You like re-outfitted a van that you've turned into a studio. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Tell us about this.
Oh my God. Well, thank God I had that project to do during COVID, because I felt so guilty because all my friends saying they have nothing to do. It's like, I am busy every day. So yeah, it was a cargo van, the Mercedes Sprinter. It's really tall. You can stand inside of it. And I just converted it into a living space that I can, pack up with my photography work, go to show, and exhibit it.
That's amazing. I'm so proud of you. Congrats on getting that accomplished. See, silver lining to COVID.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Well, so good to see you, my friend. I hope it's not too long before I can see you in person.
I know.
Likewise.
This was great, though. Thanks for coming on and chatting with all of us.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for sharing everything.
All right.
See you, Dan. Thanks so much. Nick, I love Dan. He is so smart. He's so he makes it so simple. And it's so funny because we always talk about he's like a man of such few words, but when he gets passionate about something, he really is like an expert and has a lot of really, really good stuff. Yeah. And then you can't stop, then you can get him to stop talking and get him more passionate about stuff.
That's the Dan I
I'm
love.
so glad he was here. Yeah. But now I get to talk to you because this was also your segment that you put together. So I want to roll through and talk about the part and ask you a few questions that you had to add to this amazing program that you guys put together. So the first part that I wanted to talk about, since you and I have been on set so often together, is kind of that concept to creation journey. So the first thing is really about the storyboarding. Like, what is the storyboarding concept and how important is that?
Yeah, I think when you're creating a full shoot or a campaign or a professional photo shoot, the conceptual part of it is almost more important than the actual execution, because, Nicholas French always said, fail to prepare, prepare to fail, right? So you have to really do the work in creating what that concept is, so that all the people that you bring to the party with you the day of the shoot, from the photographer to the wardrobe to the fashion stylist to the makeup artist to the assistants and everybody who's playing a key role in that, they have to understand the vision. If they understand the vision, then they will be able to really understand how to bring it to life. But I think we have a video that we could toss to take a look.
Perfect.
It's not only about the hair. You have to have a story to your images. They need to speak to people when they look at them. So you need good lighting, you need good wardrobe, you need good makeup, you need a talented crew of people to riff off of that help your ideas come to life in a bigger way. And it's not about you, it's about the team that brings it together, because in the end, everyone that has had a hand in it, the wardrobe, the fashion stylist, the photographer, has to feel like they have their signature on this, and if they do, they're going to pour their heart into it, and it's going to be better than you imagine.
All right, so now that we've just seen this video, I know the answer to this already, but I'm going to set it up so that everybody else knows just how important is wardrobe when it comes to the photo shoot.
Oh my gosh, that can make or break your own shoot. That can make or break the whole shoot. I mean, it's critical. It's a critical component, because an image is all about composition, right? And one mistake that a lot of hairdressers make when they're doing things like a Naha shoot is they spend so much time on just the hair that they forget about the rest of the composition. So your hair may be so incredible, but then when you look at it, all you see is the hair and you don't see the story. Like, what is the image telling you? Like, how does it speak to you? And the wardrobe is what is the supporting actor to the, to the hero of the image, and that's the hair, right? So we all know that the lead actor in this image, let's say, is the hair, but you have to have the supporting actors with the makeup and the lighting and the wardrobe to support the hair so that it tells the complete story.
Yeah, I was going to say, it really does help tell the story. And you mentioned Naha, so let's go there. Like, let's talk about where you find your inspiration to create these stories, so to speak, right? So where are you coming up with your inspiration to start these Naha photo shoots?
Yeah, I wish I could say there's one place. I find inspiration everywhere. I mean, you know that. I drive you crazy with all my ideas. And usually it starts with something that doesn't make much sense at all. And then we start to peel the onion away to understand what's really at the root of the idea. And that's when something really cool comes. And when you're able to bounce it off with people, like how you and I have, had so much fun all these years, is bouncing off of each other these ideas. And now my one little idea, now that you're hearing it, maybe you'll have 15 other ideas that I never thought of. And that's the power of a team. And that's the power of when you bring everybody together and you bring a bunch of talent together. They bring something so important to the idea. And that's where inspiration then becomes reality. But, sometimes it could be from a run down the block and all of a sudden I saw something that just inspired me in architecture, or it could be a vacation I was on, or it could be somebody else's hair that really inspired me because it was so beautiful. And then my thought on that was like, okay, so how do I take that and make that unique? And a lot of times, actually, I'm inspired by fashion. So what's happening on the runway is a lot of times what then I'm inspired to create something kind of different and cool with.
You know what, Nick, you are so right, because inspiration can come from all over the place, totally unexpected places. All of a sudden I remember I'll send you a text and it like spirals into our next like Naha shoot. And then those are some of my favorite moments, because you're like, remember we talked about that? And then you see it in the photo and you're like, that's so cool how it can come to be like that. So what I really just want to like kind of bring it all together is like, if you were to give somebody advice and all the experience that you have, like what are some like overarching tips and tricks that you find really make a photo shoot just click and really work?
Yeah, I think having a clear strategy is number one most important thing. Figure out what was the one thing that inspired you to do the shoot to begin with. Like, I think of different scenarios in my career. Like when we partnered with Modern Salon and, we talked about doing a shoot in California, the location was what inspired the collection in that scenario.
How fun was that?
That was amazing. Yeah. And it turned out beautiful because we had a clear vision on what that was. There's been other things where I knew exactly what I wanted the hair color to look like or the shape in the hair to look like. So we built everything else around it off of the hair color and the shape. So it's just being very clear and concise on what it is that you're drawn to. I think from there, it's make sure you have the right team in place. And every single person on the team plays a critical role in the success of the shoot, from the photographer to the wardrobe stylist and all the way around, like we talked about in the beginning. I would say then it's about really making sure that the models can capture the essence of what you're trying to do in that image. They really need to connect with the audience. And you have to almost think of like your image needs to be like theatrical in the sense of it's not going to speak, it's not going to move. So the image has to do all the things that theater does in live form in one snapshot. Yeah. And that's really going to be reliant on the model that you choose. So, make sure that you really spend the time finding the right model for the muse to create the look.
I think the only thing that I would add, I love everything that you said, but I think that also essential is just energy, maintaining that energy on set, right? Making sure that like even when things get stressful or you're having a glitch, it's like making sure that the energy stays to a certain level so it doesn't spiral, right?
Yeah, and to that point, Ammon, I think, if something's not going your way on set, which every photo shoot, there's something that doesn't go your way, don't let the model in on that energy, right? Like, to your point, take that away and then come back and reassure the model how amazing that model is doing. Because number one, there's all these people staring at this model, whether it's a guy or a girl who's ever on set, and it could be very overwhelming and intimidating. If something isn't going right and you keep tweaking to try and get what you need, the model could start to get in their own head to think that they're the problem, and chances are they're not. So that's what you have to just keep. When you say energy, it's all the way around.
That literally feels like a perfect come full circle to what Constance said, right? Whether you're a model or a client, it's that energy and helping them not feel that. I know we have an amazing video that I want to roll right now that's going to capture all those elements. So let's play that right now.
You really have to stretch your creativity. You really have to stretch your mind. For me, it's a personal challenge. The sun, and I wanted something that felt like the sun coming through to light up the collection.
Nick, I mean, that video, I mean, I love being able to show those videos and look back, like the work that we put into it, and then seeing those, it's kind of like, it takes you back into that moment and gives you like all the goosebumps and on your skin and stuff, because so many magical moments, so many really cool, like creative moments. And this has been such a fun episode to kind of relive some of those moments together.
I totally agree. And you know what, everyone out there, we want to see when you bring your work to life. So make sure you tag Ammon and I on social media so we could see all of the cool things that you're doing. If you're doing a photo shoot or you did a client that you're super proud of, like tag us. We want to see, and I promise you we're looking at all that stuff.
Absolutely.
So yeah, fun show, lots of good stuff. Great to be on with all my friends. So really good time on Matrix family. But Ammon, we have more coming up. Actually, no, we're on summer hours. So
I was just going to say, remind everybody summer schedule. So we'll be seeing you guys on Monday for our next episode. It's called Real Talk with Danielle Kiesling and Michael Sean Corby. So that's going to be cool. But remember, Friday off, enjoy, and we will see you guys on Monday with those two.
Awesome. Can't wait. All right, everyone. Hope you enjoyed tonight. Thanks for tuning in with us. We look forward to seeing you soon. Take care. Have a great night, everyone.